Man, the Baltimore Ravens just pulled off one of those moves that make you stop and think. Okay, they're not messing around. The trade for Draymond Jones is one of those decisions that might not grab the biggest headlines right away, but when you break it down, you realize just how smart and strategic it really is. This isn't just about filling a roster spot or taking a flyer on a veteran guy. No, this is about adding someone who brings a specific skill set that Baltimore has been missing all season. That blend of inside-outside versatility, the ability to win one-on-one, and the kind of toughness that fits right into what the Ravens love to do defensively. Let's start with what Jones has been doing recently, because it's not like this guy has been quiet. He's put up 4.5 sacks in the last 4 games, which, for a team like the Titans that's been struggling, is no small feat. He got 1 against the Raiders, 1 against the Patriots, 1 against the Colts, and 1 against the Chargers. That's week after week of consistent pressure. He's not just having one of those random breakout games and then disappearing for a month. He's been on fire, and that production definitely caught Baltimore's attention. When you're a team that's been trying to generate pressure without having to blitz on every other down, a guy like that immediately becomes a hot commodity. What makes Draymond Jones such an interesting fit is that flexibility. He started his career playing more on the interior defensive line, handling the dirty work inside, dealing with double teams, plugging gaps, and making life miserable for guards. But as the years went on, he slimmed down, got quicker, and transitioned more toward the edge. That's not an easy move to make, but Jones did it successfully, and now he's one of those players who can line up wherever you need him. You can throw him on the inside during passing downs, kick him outside in early downs, or even mix things up mid-series to confuse offensive lines. That kind of versatility is something the Ravens' defense absolutely thrives on. You look at Baltimore's defense this season, and one of the biggest struggles has been getting home with a 4-man rush. They've been forced to send extra blitzers more often than they'd like, and while that aggressive style can work, it leaves you vulnerable in the secondary. Teams have been taking advantage of that. So when you add a player who can actually win his one-on-one matchups, it changes everything. Jones is that guy. He's powerful enough to hold his ground in the run game, but he's also athletic enough to bend around the edge and disrupt the quarterback. Sure, he'll make a few mistakes here and there. Every player does. But the trade-off is worth it because he can create those moments that completely shift the momentum of a drive. Another reason this move makes sense is because it's low risk, high reward. Baltimore didn't give up a major draft asset for him, just a 5th-round pick that could turn into a 4th. That's a very reasonable price for someone who can come in and contribute right away. On top of that, Jones's contract situation is pretty friendly for the Ravens. His base salary is under $1 million for the rest of the season, and there's no long-term money tied up beyond that. So if it works out, great. You've got a difference maker on your hands. If not, you haven't boxed yourself into a bad deal. It's one of those moves that makes sense on every level. Now, this doesn't mean Baltimore is done. This feels like a starting move, not the grand finale. The trade deadline always brings surprises, but even if this ends up being the only major acquisition, it's a solid step in the right direction. What Jones gives you is something Baltimore desperately needed. A guy who can stabilize that defensive front, make the line more flexible, and take some of the load off younger players like Mike Green. When you have a veteran like Jones who can handle multiple roles, it frees up the rotation. You can keep everyone fresh, you can mix up your looks, and you can finally get back to that unpredictable, physical brand of defense that the Ravens are known for. And let's not forget, this move also gives the Ravens a new leader in sacks. Jones now takes that title with his 4.5. That might not sound like a huge number, but for a defense that's been struggling to find someone who can consistently close the deal, that's a big deal. Sometimes, it's not just about stats, it's about presence. When opposing offensive lines watch film and see that you've got a guy like Draymond Jones coming off the edge, it changes how they game plan. It opens up lanes for everyone else. Suddenly, players like Justin Matabike and Odafe Owa are getting cleaner looks because offenses have to account for another threat. It's also worth noting that Jones is not some random midseason pickup with no resume. This is his 7th season in the NFL. He spent his first 4 years in Denver, where he built a reputation as a reliable pass rusher. Over his career, he's racked up more than 35 sacks and has never had a season with fewer than 3.5, and that was way back in his rookie year. His best years came in 2020 and 2022, when he posted 6.5 sacks each. That's solid, steady production from a guy who's been asked to do a little bit of everything along the line. When Denver decided to move on from him, Seattle saw the potential and gave him a big contract, 3 years for more than $50 million. That tells you what kind of value teams see in him. Now, sure, things didn't quite work out long-term in Seattle, but that's how this league goes sometimes. He landed in Tennessee on a 1-year deal worth $8.5 million, and despite the team's struggles, he's played some really good football. The fact that Baltimore was able to get him now, for a relatively small cost, is impressive. And what's really exciting is what this move says about where the Ravens are mentally right now. This isn't a team settling for mediocrity or trying to just get through the season. This is a front office and coaching staff looking at their roster and saying, we've got a chance to make something happen here, but we've got to fix the weak spots. They know the defense hasn't been living up to its potential. They know they can't keep relying on blitz-heavy schemes forever. So they go out, identify a player who fits exactly what they need, and pull the trigger. That's the kind of decisiveness that good organizations show when they're serious about contending. Draymond Jones also brings a certain energy with him. He's coming from a Titans team that, let's be honest, hasn't been very competitive this season. Now he's joining a locker room that's hungry, a team with a legitimate chance to make a push. That alone can light a fire under a player. When you take a veteran like Jones, someone who's been grinding for years on teams that weren't really in the playoff mix, and suddenly drop him into a situation where every game matters, that changes your mindset. You can feel that motivation. And for a player like him, who thrives on energy and emotion, that can elevate his game even further. The Ravens' defense has always been built on physicality and aggression, and Jones fits that mold perfectly. He's 6'3", weighs around 280 pounds, and plays with that combination of power and agility that makes offensive linemen miserable. He's not afraid to take on double teams. He's got violent hands, and he finishes plays. You can see why the coaching staff was interested in bringing him in. They've lost a few key defensive linemen this season, and that lack of depth has really shown up, especially late in games. Having someone like Jones who can fill multiple roles means you're essentially adding 2 players in one. In a way, this move is about restoring balance. For weeks, the Ravens have been trying to patch things together, adjusting their schemes, experimenting with personnel groupings, trying to find some spark. Now they've got a player who can actually give them that spark without needing to change the entire system around him. You can line him up on the edge, pair him with another rusher, slide him inside on third downs, and let him collapse the pocket. He fits anywhere, and that's what makes him so valuable. And while fans are excited, and rightfully so, this move also sends a message to the rest of the locker room. It says, we're not giving up. We're trying to win now. That's the kind of thing that can energize a team heading into the final stretch of the season. Everyone knows that one mid-season trade isn't going to magically fix everything. But sometimes, one addition can change the tone, can shift the energy, can make everyone believe just a little more. When you look at what this move means in the bigger picture, it's not just about one player joining the roster. It's about what Baltimore is trying to build right now. The Ravens have been through a strange stretch of ups and downs this season. They've shown flashes of dominance, especially when the defense is flying around and forcing turnovers. But there have also been moments where the pass rush completely disappeared. That inconsistency has cost them games, plain and simple. So the front office stepping up to bring in Draymond Jones feels like an acknowledgement that they couldn't just sit around and hope things would magically fix themselves. They needed a jolt, and Jones is exactly that. What makes him even more valuable is how his arrival affects everyone else around him. It's not just about what Jones can do individually, but how he changes the dynamic for the rest of the defense. When a guy like that is winning his battles up front, everything else starts to flow. The linebackers can stay cleaner because offensive linemen are occupied. The corners get more help because quarterbacks don't have time to sit in the pocket. And the defensive coordinator suddenly has more freedom to disguise coverages and mix up blitz packages because the front four can actually generate pressure on their own. That's been a missing piece all year. Baltimore has had to send extra rushers on too many plays just to create chaos, and that leaves the secondary exposed. If Jones can help stabilize that part of the game, it changes everything for this unit. But beyond the X's and O's, this move also shows the mindset that the organization has right now. The Ravens are in a window where they have to take advantage of their talent. They have a quarterback in his prime, a coaching staff that knows how to win, and a defense that, when healthy, can go toe-to-toe with anybody. So you can't waste a year hoping young players develop fast enough to fill every hole. You have to go get the pieces that give you a real shot. That's what this trade represents: urgency. It's a front office saying, we're not content just making the playoffs. We're trying to win something bigger. You can tell that mentality is starting to spread throughout the locker room too. Bringing in someone like Draymond Jones sends a message to the veterans that the front office is backing them up. It shows the younger guys that the team believes in competing right now, not later. And when you add a player with Jones's experience, it also brings another voice into that defensive room. He's played in Denver, Seattle, and Tennessee. 3 very different systems, 3 very different locker rooms. That kind of perspective matters. It helps build a stronger unit because he's been through the grind. He's learned from different coaching styles, and he knows what it takes to prepare every week. And don't overlook the timing of this deal. Baltimore's schedule down the stretch is very manageable, and the defense will have time to get Jones fully integrated before the games that really matter. You can already imagine the possibilities. Him lining up next to Justin Matabike, crashing the interior while the edge rushers collapse from the outside. That kind of combination can completely overwhelm an offensive line. Once he gets comfortable in the system, he's going to make life easier for everyone else around him. Now, it's also interesting to think about what this means for the other players on the roster. Someone like David Harbaugh, who's still finding his footing, could benefit from having a guy like Jones in the room. Watching how he prepares, how he reads protections, how he sets up blockers, that's the kind of mentorship you can't buy. The Ravens have always done well when they've balanced their roster with both young, explosive players and steady veterans who understand the grind. Jones fits perfectly into that mold. He doesn't have to be the star. He just has to do his job and set the tone. Financially, it's a clean move too. The Ravens aren't taking on a big contract, which keeps them flexible heading into next season. That's important because they'll have some key decisions to make on extensions and free agents. Having Jones on an expiring deal gives them control. If he performs well and fits into the culture, they can look at re-signing him. If not, they can move on without any dead money or cap headaches. It's a calculated move that gives them both short-term help and long-term flexibility, and that's exactly how a smart front office operates. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. The NFL world is buzzing, and for good reason. In what could be the most shocking statement of the season, Ravens head coach John Harbaugh has reportedly broken his silence on a claim that has been whispered in locker rooms, but never publicly stated. Baltimore is the best team in the league. That's right. The man at the helm of the franchise, who has always been measured and diplomatic in interviews, allegedly dropped this bombshell during a recent media session, leaving fans and analysts alike scrambling to react. Sources close to the team suggest that Harbaugh, usually careful with his words, didn't just stop at praising the Ravens' record or individual players. Insiders claim he went further, implying that Baltimore's depth, discipline, and sheer talent put them ahead of every other team in the NFL. He said things nobody else had the courage to say, one anonymous team insider reportedly revealed. It was almost like he was daring the league to prove him wrong. The timing of this revelation couldn't be more explosive. With the playoffs approaching and debates heating up over which team truly dominates the current NFL landscape, Harbaugh's comments have injected a new layer of intrigue into the conversation. Analysts are now poring over the Ravens' performances, from their relentless defense to their dynamic offense, trying to gauge whether this is confidence, bravado, or a calculated psychological tactic. Fans on social media have already erupted, with hashtags praising Harbaugh's candor trending nationwide. Some see it as a rallying cry for the team, while others interpret it as a bold challenge to every other franchise in the league. Meanwhile, players themselves are reportedly embracing the statement, motivated by the unspoken challenge. If your coach says you're the best, then act like it. Whether this declaration will stand the test of time or fizzle as mere talk remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. The NFL hierarchy just got a little more interesting. Baltimore is no longer just a contender. According to its own coach, it's the benchmark. And if history is any guide, when John Harbaugh speaks, the football world listens. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.